Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to an episode of Packcast, the podcast where you don't have to be a Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom. It's the first interview of the season of Grossi. And today, we're bringing back a former guest of the show. Former, meaning that he agreed to do this for a second time. Why? I don't know. But he has covered the New Orleans Saints for The Athletic, for SB Nation. He has his own YouTube channel covering and breaking down film of the New Orleans Saints. He's got a gaming channel. Ladies and gentlemen, returning for the second time to Packcast, Deuce.
Thanks for having me. I'm actually here. If you are watching, right, if you're listening to Tom, all I want you to do, start flaming me in the comment section below. Do it right now. If you're not doing this, then I'm just going to say that as a fan base, you suck. Okay? Ooh. So if you're not flaming me at this very moment, well, just GTFO. That's all I got to say.
Just get out. Just get out. Buddy, it's great to have you back. Really appreciate you taking the time. And it's only poetic that our teams should be facing off in week one, just like they did 10 years ago. Yes, it is. And here's why. Deuce. And here's why. Because 10 years ago, Randall Cobb's debut game against the New Orleans Saints ran that bad boy right back for a touchdown. And look, oh my God, he's back again.
Yeah, which one I'm not worried about it because he's a skill position player and it's been 10 years.
Hey, listen, buddy. Listen. Do you know how much football acumen he got while on the Houston Texans? He learned everything that he needed to.
Hey, look, I'm sure his muscles are real relaxed and everything right now. So,
yeah, he got a nice little reprieve. He played the Packers
last
year.
It's a vacation.
It is. I mean, he called it prison, but you know, there's rec time, so there's things there.
I can play the football.
Let's get football, baby. All right. So, since the last time that we spoke, things have occurred within the NFC South. Just a bit. Surprisingly, yeah. You have a reigning defending Super Bowl champion in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which I know we're all so ecstatic about. We're super happy about that.
We equally are enthused to a similar degree.
We're just big Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans. Just
deluge of emotion right now.
Just love that. You know, it's like, we're before I even get into anything, now I have to make a comparison because years ago when the Vikings were being good for a hot second, and I know how much you hate the Vikings because the way that they got to the championship game, we're not going to talk about that. But my concern was, oh God, the Vikings are not only going to go to the Super Bowl, but they're going to win a Super Bowl in their own stadium, and I'm never going to hear the end of it. And so for you, the Saints being on top for so long, do you view like the Buccaneers / their fan base in that way of like, oh God, now they're just going to be just so obnoxious. Like it's going to be, you're never going to hear the end of it.
Honestly, no, because and not that, you know, as a fan base, Tampa has every right to be as proud as, you know, YouTube, we got to monitor ourselves. Very proud. They could be very proud. Okay. But at the same breath, you know, the NFC South has only really ever been two teams. Atlanta's gone to the Super Bowl twice. They've lost. Yeah. Carolina's gone and lost. But Tampa had the Super Bowl win before New Orleans did. So while they've got a second now, this isn't their first rodeo trip, and technically it's their second in 2 decades, depending on how much you want to really stretch that. So as a franchise, they've kind of had that. Now, it is a little bit special to win it at home and all that other stuff, for sure. But honestly, the rivalry in the NFC South is kind of, and I'm not sure how it is for y'all in the North, but like to me, the only games that we really care about, like the people trash talking, is Atlanta. Yeah. Similar to how I imagine y'all really only care about the crap Chicago is saying at any given time. Like, do you really care about Minnesota or Detroit? I mean, do you?
Detroit, bless their little hearts. They're there. I honestly, and I think that this is with a lot, like the Bears rivalry, it's like the oldest in the history. Yeah. There's like a little bit more like respect there. And to be honest, it hasn't been the most competitive over the past while. The Vikings, it's been a little bit more competitive, and good God, they don't stop. Like they are preseason champions every single year. They're like, oh, this is the year. And when Aaron Rodgers was going to leave, they're like, you're going to be screwed. But then when he didn't leave, they're like, well, you just wait one more year and then we'll kick your ass.
Yeah, so, we've got a running back.
Yeah.
Shout out Dalvin Cook, who is really good, but I mean, come on,
Yes.
it's 2021, so who cares?
Yeah.
So.
Let's just say that they'll be probably forfeiting a lot of games, so it's not even going to matter at this point. So it is what it is. But Tom Brady comes to your division,
Yeah.
and like everybody in the media was like, "Oh my God, like this is it." And listen, they had a good defense right before Tom Brady. Don't get me wrong. They had a bunch of pieces that were already there, built up the offensive line. They did basically what they had to do. And for you, watching Tom Brady come into the division to a division rival, kind of what are your initial thoughts on? Oh man, he's here. Did you think that we would get to the point where like, oh God, they're winning a Super Bowl in their first season?
I don't think anybody besides just the talking heads in national media who love to jump on the storylines and then get you to click on their article and you can watch that ad about Viagra really believed they were going straight to the Super Bowl. But I mean, obviously, Tom Brady is Tom Brady. Whether you like him or dislike him, he is what he is. My hope going in, because I knew the weapons they had. You've got the Godwins, the Evans. You had a loaded tight end room. You had a surging up offensive line led by Jensen, who one of the nastiest offensive linemen in the NFL. And if you go against him, you hate him. He's dirty, but you secretly like, please sign with my team. It's just, so they've got that. They've got a great linebacker core, good, team overall. Then adding Tom, you're like, well, the potential's there. The hope was that the hubris of Bruce Arians would be like, well, no matter what, you do what I tell you to do. Like he's done with every other quarterback. Shout out Carson Palmer, Peyton Manning, everybody. And it happened that way for almost 2/3 of a season where, Tom Brady's career interception percentage or his single season interception percentage last year was on pace to be as high, if not higher than he's ever had it before. And then you had that second bout where the New Orleans Saints just smacked the ever-loving Godsmack out of Tampa in Tampa. And then Tom Brady's like, yo, chill out. Here's what we're going to do, Bruce. Take this kale smoothie. And I'm going to tell you how we need to run this offense. And when they adapted it more towards Tom Brady's skill set and stopped trying to do the crazy pushes down the field for no reason and everything, and they became a more efficient offense. That's where it really clicked. And then they had the added bonus that you can't control as a team. They were healthy at the end of the season. And no matter how good your team is, if you lose that, your odds of making it to the Super Bowl are very, very tough. And I know Green Bay's had that issue. New Orleans has had that issue. And it just is what it is. So they managed to make it all the way. And, happy for them. Yeah. But I don't think Tom Brady was necessarily the only reason. There's a lot of factors that go into that. But at the same time, do I think they can do it again? It's really hard to repeat. We'll see. Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. And kind of just making those comparisons to the Packers besides us commiserating in our misery. This year, like the narrative around the Packers season is like this last dance, right? It's very likely that Aaron Rodgers
is coming to New Orleans.
Okay, great. It's like bringing a Broncos fan on for week one.
They got Teddy. They're good. They're good.
They're fine. They're fine. They're fine. As a Saints fan, I could say you're in good hands. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
And Devontae and what have you, and we're approaching a cliff when it comes to our cap and everything like that. Last year, was there a similar narrative / sense that this was kind of like a last dance in which Drew Brees likely going to be gone after this season, cap going to be a little bit rough, or was it kind of just let's try to win one for Brees, but it is what it is?
So it's definitely layered. I will tell you that coming into last year, it was finally official that this was Drew's last go. This was it. Now, he's considered retirement every year since 2016. The last year they went 7-9. And if you go back and watch his end of year presser that year, the dude just looks defeated. Like he's obviously tired of being mediocre, and being 7-9 is not this, it's not Detroit Lions 0-16, but it's still like, it's what did I do this entire year of work for? Because it's not like the dude needs money unless he wants to go buy more diamonds, apparently. But shut up, Drew. Don't buy more diamonds. Do other things.
It's got to get that NyQuil sponsorship running again.
Yeah, I mean, although he's got a great new, I don't know if it's not a hair piece, but whatever. Dude, his hair looks fantastic now on NBC. So shout out to whatever you did, buddy. I hope to one day be able to afford that level of hairline improvement. Can't wait to see you on an infomercial at 2 a.m. So, all that to the side, you coming in, you kind of knew that, but you also kind of had that years prior. So like you
Yeah.
go back just the year before, Drew was potentially this is the last ride. And we talked about Tom Brady, he was supposed to come to New Orleans. And then Drew's like, no, I want to come back. So like, all right, Tom, we considered it, but Drew's coming back. You'll have to find a new home. And that obviously worked out how it worked out. So yes, that kind of has been a feeling, and there's still that, feeling that they truly believe they're a playoff team now. I mean, because of the talent around them. And I know anybody from the outside looking in and seeing Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston, because there's such a recency bias amongst fans anywhere, they're going to look at Jameis's last start and go, well, 30 interceptions, he's going to be awful. And then they're going to be like, well, I remember Taysom here. All he could do is run and be exciting in preseason. No chance. So you got to give Sean Payton, who is historically, even when he was with New York and as an offensive coordinator now in New Orleans, nobody's really ever done what he has in terms of consistent level of success, top 15, top 10 offenses. So you got to give that, a shot. As far as the cap goes, though, to be honest, this is a very unique situation in New Orleans because everybody outside every year tells you the Saints are in cap hell. The only reason the Saints were in cap hell this year was COVID. They've been in the same situation for about 15 years. They just know with guys like Mickey Loomis, Kai Harley, how to manipulate the cap. And, like you've seen it posted, the Saints signed Taysom Hill 4 years, $140 million. No, they didn't.
No, they didn't. No.
They signed him $12 million guaranteed, and they used an extension to push cap numbers. And if you want to go that far, there's 3 players with an identical contract right now: Marshawn Lattimore, Jameis Winston, and Taysom Hill. I promise you, they do not have a secret stash of like $420 million just going out to 3 people. It's cap manipulation. And not all teams are as good at doing this as others. And it really depends on the type of players and the positions that you want to keep. And, technically you still got Drew dead cap sitting here, even with his retirement. It's not that much, but, you kick the can down the road, you have to pay for it. But as long as the salary cap increases every year, you can make up for it. Yeah. And that's how they've done it. COVID threw a big wrench in the system because your salary cap went down a lot. So then you had to it ended up working out okay. There's 2 players specifically they wish they could have kept, and that's Janoris Jenkins and Emmanuel Sanders, particularly Janoris Jenkins. That's the one that they wanted the most. But he ended up having to move on, and he even talked about afterwards that this was his favorite place he's played. The culture was perfect. It just came down to you can't afford to get everybody back. But, as a team, they're very confident in where they are. I don't think that they have any grand illusions going into week 1 that they're Super Bowl contenders, but they do still see themselves as a wild card contender. And, as any team can tell you, whether it's Green Bay, New York, if you get into the playoffs, that's all you need. Things can happen. We can talk about that, and I'm sure, as I told Packers fans to flame me coming into the show, feel free to flame me on that opinion, but we can discuss why we hold that here as we talk during the show.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I've said that, right? You look at the 2010 run for the Packers, right? And you just like get in and you just win a few games and you're in. Thank you, Atlanta. I think that, especially now that like the playoffs have changed, like if you get in now as like the 7th seed, and play on Nickelodeon, like there's different.
Shout out Mitchell Trubisky,
the MVP to us all, end of our hearts. In terms of making it to the playoffs, you look at the Saints, and while you did lose a couple of pieces, that offense, I know Michael Thomas, he's on the PUP list, just like David Bakhtiari. But you look at Alvin Kamara, who's still absolutely incredible, right? And I imagine will probably run all over us again, like they did, Sunday Night Football. But in terms of the quarterbacks that you mentioned, you have Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill. What is kind of your view on that QB battle? Because that was a narrative, at least from the outside, that kind of like when we're talking about the Saints, that got a decent amount of airtime. And, Jameis Winston came in, looked good during the preseason, what have you. Taysom Hill has been hyped up for a while now. Kind of how are you looking at that? Like, is Taysom Hill going to still be like that gadget player, or is he going to like eventually take the starting role in your opinion, or is this team Jameis Winston's?
It's Jameis Winston's team. And coming in, they gave, and the plan was always to give Taysom Hill a legitimate shot to be the starting quarterback. because I think he had earned it. He had been here for 3 years. He had come from Green Bay. They picked him up, put him on the practice squad. He had time to earn the right to fight for it. And he was promised it. He was given a legitimate shot. So this wasn't a we signed Jameis Winston and sucks to be you, Taysom. Get out there and play tight end. He got a legitimate shot. But the biggest issue with Taysom has always been his field progression when it comes to reads. Because if you've ever followed a high-end play caller like a Sean Payton, he's not just going to run simple, half-field reads all day and 1-2 high-level concepts. He wants to run full field. I mean, the concept that him and Drew Brees dominated with for over a decade was 4 verts, which is a 5-route read across the entire field. He wants to do that. And he gave Taysom the opportunity to do that. There was 2 plays, in fact, in the second preseason game where he gave that play twice, and Taysom did the wrong thing twice. Now, one of them still ended up being a completion, but he still went the wrong direction in the throw, did the wrong read. And it's not that Taysom, I think, is awful. I still think there's some really bad quarterbacks in the NFL. Like, I believe if Taysom went to Carolina right now, he could probably start. And sorry, any Jets fans listening, if you have some faith in Sam Darnold that I do not have. Yeah,
we got none. We got okay,
no. Just making sure. I mean, the greens. Maybe there's some form of loyalty to the color green. I don't know. It's but I do think that he is a low end starter, high end backup. Because he is not bad. Okay. And he has the running ability and the dual threat that people talk about, and he can make some fantastic throws. And he's good enough to put a highlight film together for him as a quarterback. He's not good enough to trust as a starter. Whereas Jameis, the number one thing people are going to say is, well, he's turnover prone. So then you have to take the time to look at how he's done in camp, preseason, what he's worked on. He's worked on purposely improving his mechanics, working with the same people that helped improve Drew Brees' mechanics coming into New Orleans. So that was a big thing. And then he's also simply trying to execute the offense instead of just making plays. And that was the thing in Tampa is, dude, we just want you to chunk the ball.
Yeah.
Just push it.
Yeah.
He's not being told to push it here. He's being told to execute this play, make the read, make the throw, don't do anything stupid. And he's still throwing 40, 50-yard touchdown passes because he's executing proper reads instead of forcing things. Now, how will that translate to the regular season? Well, we'll find out in a week. But
yeah,
in terms of, is there a battle anymore? No, it's Jameis's. And honestly, it was Jameis's to lose because coming in, he was the better quarterback. Hence why he started in the NFL for 4 years. And, but I still think Taysom is going to return back to what he has been, which is that extremely deadly receiver / running back / quarterback / fullback / assistant, water boy, everything. Yeah.
You guys got Gatorade? You got? Yeah, I got you. So in terms of, you mentioned teams like the Carolina Panthers. We already talked about Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Atlanta Falcons they're doing stuff. In terms of like the division as a whole, you look at like the Falcons and you could argue like, Matt Ryan, who still, threw for like over 4,000 yards last season. They're, I don't want to say rebuilding, but like maybe they're about to maybe potentially close the chapter. Maybe Matt Ryan's in the twilight of his career, right? The Panthers are a very young team. They're trying Sam Darnold at QB, see how that works out, right? The Buccaneers, there's just like a lot of finger crossing that maybe when Tom Brady leaves after this season, maybe this is the year that maybe they'll regress a little bit, even though they have some young guys on their team. How are you looking at the division as a whole? Because the Saints, I would argue, have been, like you said, one of the top teams of 2 for all this time. Sean Payton has this record of consistency of being really, really good. You had Drew Brees. Do you see this as like the Saints division still, or is it the Buccaneers for like a temporary thing and then another team might sneak in? Like, I just kind of want to know, like, not even rankings, like where the division's at.
Well, I guess it really comes down to, is Jameis Winston good, or is Jameis Winston the Winston that we saw last with, Bruce Arians?
Yeah.
Because if the Saints can show, and this is not to me to try to just blow this hype train, like, oh, Jameis Winston's secretly a top 3 quarterback. But let's just say, for argument, he's top 15. So he's better than average.
Yeah.
If you take the talent the Saints have with Jameis Winston's young compared to A-Rod, Brady, guys like that. If you have a younger quarterback with Peyton being arguably the best offensive play caller in the NFL, and then you've got Thomas, Kamara, probably the best offensive line in the NFL right now, because top left tackle is 2 names. It's David Bakhtiari and Teron Armstead. There's the only two to me that really have in that argument. And Duke Manyweather will say the same thing. You can flip one of those depending on what you prefer.
Okay.
Bakhtiari is extremely talented. Armstead a little bit more athletic, but also a little bit more injury prone history-wise. But the thing that sets the Saints offensive line apart is they have the best tackle duo, undeniably. They have a stud left, and they have all pro level on both sides, and then they have a strong core. So whether you put the Saints offensive line at number 1 or number 3, they have a very young, very star-studded offensive line that basically everybody's like 28 years or younger. So if the quarterback situation is okay, it's still the Saints long term in the division. But right now, the best team is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the one that just won a Super Bowl. They're the best team.
Yeah.
But there's also a reason that people are going to look at, well, the Saints won at least 11 games over the past 4 years. And then people are going to be like, well, they had Drew Brees. Well, the Saints are 8-1 without Drew, and they beat Atlanta twice with Taysom Hill as quarterback, who just lost the starting job. So obviously it's more than just Drew. It hurts to lose a Hall of Fame quarterback. I hope the Packers don't have to deal with that. I mean, but that y'all are just going to have to have your own, Big Brother episode between the GM and A-Rod. Can y'all be on Hard Knocks, please?
Listen, we already lost one, so it just happened a little bit longer ago. Yeah, I know it's gonna.
But I mean, I think the Saints, young talent-wise, have got young talent to be good, if nothing worse than like a 500 team while they rebuild their situation, as long as Sean Payton is there. There's nothing of Sean Payton's coaching history to suggest that they'll ever be like a 4-13 team, which is still getting really weird to say with the new extra game.
It's very weird, yes.
And I said this at the beginning, am I coming in thinking the Saints are like a 13-win team? No. But do I think that they could win 10, maybe 11 if things go right and they're a number 7 or maybe number 6 seed in the wild card? Yeah, I think that it's definitely there. So the talent for this team is enough to where you can be confident. I mean, they were a top 5 defense last year, and that really hasn't changed. The second cornerback spot is kind of curious, and we're all going to see how that ends up playing out. That's one of the reasons I'm kind of happy you've got Randall Cobb and Allen Lazard. So, if Lattimore plays up and he's on Adams, you're slightly more confident. If Lattimore plays down and he plays like he did last year and lets Allen Lazard school him, well, then there's problems. One thing with Lattimore is he always plays up to talent, and he probably respects Adams a hell of a lot more than he respected Lazard, so he might actually put out a better performance in this game. So we'll just see how it plays out. But young talent is there for the Saints. It's just, can the quarterback work out?
That's fair enough. And in looking and talking about kind of matchups with the Green Bay Packers. So you saw that story, I'm assuming, about how the Saints chose Jacksonville as their preferred stadium that they were going to be playing in all the Florida stadiums. That, they just wanted to be a pain in the ass for Packers fans to get, which, by the way, like, we're going to show up. It's going to happen. Like, they're going to be there. So I want to get, because there's some nuance here. So I want to get your first take on playing in Jacksonville, right? You guys already play in Tampa, right? So you're kind of used to at least the Floridian heat. Do you think that home field or lack of home field advantage is going to play a factor at all in this game?
Here's what might play a factor. Y'all don't like our heat and humidity.
True.
It is not the crowd noise. And just to be clear real quick, the first choice was AT&T Stadium in Dallas.
That's what I wanted.
But of course that's what you wanted.
That's our home.
Yeah, exactly. But it's also from a comfort, from a travel, it would have been much better to be there for a lot of us. But anyway, I don't think there'll be a home field advantage. I mean, even though I think the Saints can travel well, y'all do have to keep in mind that we just had a massive natural disaster. And not to be insensitive like your GM was, because he's a nozzle. I don't think anybody in your area who lives up there can truly fathom what that's like, just because there's nothing equivalent for
tornadoes every now and then.
Yeah, but a tornado is, no offense, nothing compared to a Category 4 hurricane the size of a state. So take your tornado.
Can we please get into a natural disaster debate?
Yeah, we can.
Well, did you even think about typhoons? We have lakes.
Okay, I mean, is Green Bay secretly in Southeast Asia?
Not yet.
But I mean, so just from that standpoint, though, we've still got the city of New Orleans completely isn't in power yet, and there
Yeah.
are a lot of surrounding cities that won't have power until maybe next month. So I mean, the ability for Saints fans to travel, will there be Saints fans there? Well, of course, but
Sure.
is it going to be one of those things where like, oh, we can just drive a few hours and go to Jacksonville? No, it's just it's probably going to be similar to how, if y'all go back, if you're old enough to remember, like when we had Katrina happen and we're playing in places like San Antonio and LSU where the stadium's half full. It's not that we don't support our team. It's just that some of us literally lost our house.
Yeah, literally.
So
Yeah.
more important things going on, we'll listen on the radio. And I think the only advantage really that comes down to it is we are used to that level of heat and humidity. Can that wear Green Bay down in the second half of a game to where if it is, let's just say 95 degrees and 80% humidity, I mean, it's harder to breathe. It's harder to do anything in those conditions. Does that affect y'all? Because we practice in Metairie every day, and that's just kind of like we're used to it. So
Yeah.
if that's the case, that's the only advantage if there is one.
Okay.
But at the same time, Aaron Rodgers is not going to have to worry about not being able to get his play calls off because there's no crowd noise. There's not going to be a 120 decibel stadium screaming at him.
Sure. Yeah. So like give and take. I mean, because like we've had success in Florida before, and also lack of success in Florida before. But I think to your credit, yeah, I think it's the lack of crowd noise, but also I think the last time I checked, it's supposed to be like 90 degrees or something like that. So like it's gonna be hot, and it's in the afternoon. Like it's it's gonna be.
I love how they decided to keep the time slot. Like, we'll just keep it at 3. Yeah, it sounds great. It sounds great.
That's fine. That's fine.
But
so in terms of matching up against the Green Bay Packers, the Packers, similar to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, kept just about everybody. The big difference is Corey Linsley. So Corey Linsley going over to the Chargers, replacing that with Josh Myers, rookie guy. And then, of course, not having like Jamal Williams, but you have A.J. Dillon just taking that second running back spot. So other than that, the team has basically stayed the same in who we had last year. And then we've just added some people with the draft, like Eric Stokes, TJ Slayton, etc. Mm-hmm. So how are you looking at this game in terms of like the Saints' chances of pulling away like a week 1 victory? You know, what are some matchups that you're looking at? I know you mentioned like Lattimore on potentially Adams. I mean, who knows? MVS. I'm all about that MVS season this year. He had the same amount of deep touchdowns as Tyreek Hill last year. So
look,
we'll see.
Scantling's talented. I'm not saying he's not. I mean, for sure. That would be more of, you probably worry about him attacking you more out of the slot, especially if you got Adams. And definitely you can use movement to move those things around. I think matchup wise, I guess you got to look at the bigger picture, then we can go individual. But like defensively for Green Bay, secondary I find fantastic. Like, can I have Jari Alexander, please? Like,
no, Jair's ours, and he's beautiful.
He is. He's the perfect talent that will also chirp at you. It's perfect for me. He's the perfect corner. Your front 7, not as imposing, especially compared to Saints offensive line, Alvin Kamara, etc. Sure. That is, and I'm not trying to say Green Bay's bad. Continue to flame me in the comment section below. I'm here for it. But I think if you're really going matchup to matchup, it's like you got the Smith brothers, who aren't really brothers, but you got the Smith brothers. But do they match up, say, versus Cesar Ruiz, McCoy, Ram, things like that? No, I think the Saints offensive line is set to have that level of protection enough to have success. It's the secondary. Can the Saints receivers without Michael Thomas have success against the system that you will employ with some very talented players on the outside? The Saints have got a young guy that we had last year that is Marquez Callaway. So there's no stats on this guy. I had 21 catches last year. Mm-hmm. So most Packers fans are probably going to write him off because every team has that stud nobody knows about. Well, the stud nobody knows about in New Orleans is Marquez Callaway. He was one of those guys that averaged about 20 yards a catch in Tennessee. Now, in Drew's about final 3 years of his career, the deep thing just wasn't there. It would happen every now and then, and you'd be like, ha, still there, guys, told you. But it wasn't really there. And you have to go back to about 2017, like really go back to 2016. Go back to when Cooks and Michael Thomas was a rookie, and you saw Michael Thomas running like these deep posts and these 17-yard breaks. And he would be running and attacking downfield. That was the last time Drew really had the juice. and he pushed the field. And when that started to go away, they changed the play style of the game for New Orleans that focused more on the intermediate. So, like, everybody calls Michael Thomas slant boy.
Yep.
The true route that he is the best in the NFL is the crossover. About a 12-yard crossover, he's unstoppable. But that's going to change this year because now the Saints are opening it back up again. They can attack more than just having a 12-yard break. They can actually go downfield and use 7-step drops and stuff like that. And Winston can make those throws. And you saw a couple of those in the preseason. So a guy like Marquez Callaway and even Traquan Smith coming out of UCF, who were both guys that may not have 4.3 speed, but were very, very good in the deep portion of the game. Well, for 3 or 4 years, this team couldn't have really taken advantage of that. Now they can. So that's something to add a layer that wasn't necessarily there before. Not saying that the team's better without Drew, because gosh, that's so many different debates and discussions. But that is something to watch. Like, if you're looking for the main matchup, it's the deep ball versus Green Bay. And does it actually come alive early on? Because the Saints are going to come back with play action. They're going to attack two ways. They're a renewed focus on play action and the screen game and attacking deep. The intermediate stuff will still be there, but from where you're used to seeing the Saints use like 10-yard, 15-yard passes as their bread and butter, expect a lot more play action going deep using Yankee concepts. You're still going to see more screen passes, similar to how you did like the 2011, 2009 Saints. Yeah. That's probably what we see more of this year versus what we saw last year. So it'll be interesting to see how Green Bay decides to attack that, because you take, say, the screen game. How confident are you in your run of linebackers to cover Alvin Kamara in space?
Well, honestly, like you bring up like all these different facets of the Packers defense, and yeah, I'm not really worried about the secondary too much. I think Kevin King
I love y'all secondary.
Kevin King, I think the NFC Championship game, not his game. It was bad. It was really, really bad. But
y'all also got depth. I love Stokes. I mean, I'd take Stokes. Can I have Stokes, please?
Yeah. I'll take him, please. Eric Stokes go fast. But like, you look at our safety core, like, for example, like Eric Stokes go fast. Like Darnell Savage and Adrian Amos are phenomenal. Like, I love that safety tandem. It's the linebacker, because even you look along, you mentioned the Smith brothers, but Rashawn Gary, who started to come up last year, really excited for him this year. You look at the D-line, and it's been all Kenny Clark. I'm very curious on what TJ Slayton can do, because he is a massive human being. So I'm curious about that. But you talk about linebackers, we have a very young, inexperienced linebacker core. Now, you did bring in Campbell from Arizona, who's going to be like the veteran there. But you have, Chris Barnes is on the team. You're going to have like Oren Burks, who had a nice little preseason resurgence.
Shout out to Chris Barnes' spelling of his name, by the way. Like, thank you for making me have to look up your name anytime I write about you, because you decided to spell it Krys.
Yep,
yeah,
that's my
couldn't
man.
just be regular Chris. It had to be like Chris, but with a K. And a Y.
We let go of Kamal Martin, which was like a little surprising, but like based on his, I guess, productivity, and he wasn't the same after his injury. But it comes down to like Joe Barry, right? Because like when we hired Joe Barry, I was like, okay, like there's not really gonna hair didn't get set on fire there. But you look at what he did with guys like Corey Littleton, and you're like, okay, like if he can kind of take that linebacker core and develop them, then we could be something. So I think it's a matter of we just don't know what we have there, and we don't know what Joe Barry's going to offer at that position. So there's a lot of question marks with them.
There are. And like you mentioned Campbell, like that's somebody that obviously Saints were very familiar with, because he's coming from Atlanta. And let me tell you, he did not do very well versus Alvin Kamara. So there is those questions there, because if that short game is successful, whether it's the running game, the screens, then it will force guys like Amos and everything to come down. They've got to help defend those areas of the field that are being exploited. And if you can drag Savage and Amos down 5 yards, that opens up the deep game. You only need about 5 yards. So if you can adjust it just a little bit by having that success, well, that's how you try to exploit what isn't a great secondary. But even the best corner can only cover so long. And if you can use play action, and you talk about young linebackers, what do the young linebackers usually struggle with? Play action. They bite down hard. And then you have the middle of the field open. So there's ways that Sean Payton is talented enough to attack it. It's just, is the Saints offense, especially without Michael Thomas, good enough to exploit it? I'm not sure. You know, it's a huge question. I mean, and coming in honestly, week one, I'm never confident, even in my best team, because you've yet to see them on the field, and you've yet to see yourself, so that you can make adjustments on what you now notice as a weakness. I mean, it's easy to play against yourself for 2 months and be like, "Yo, we're so good, we're so good, right dude. We're going 17-0, baby." But then you hit another football team, and you're like, "Oh, other people play football.
Oh, they hit us."
Yes. So.
You don't know for like a month. Like it takes like the month of September. Like this team is going to look very different.
Yeah, I mean, if the Green Bay Packers and the Saints play week one, which they will, barring Kirk Cousins making a world tour, whatever we see in week one will be very different if we met again in the playoffs. It'll be two completely different teams. But if I'm looking at it here on paper, and obviously on your side of this show, everybody in Green Bay is going to be like, "Man, these two guys are delusional. There's no way." And then on our side, it's going to be like, "Well, you're underestimating, the Sean Payton and everything." And I think there's truth to both sides. I mean, Green Bay is a more established, ready to go team now. The only thing that I would say that Green Bay is like worse at is y'all's locker room just is awful, with the whole culture of just, y'all got to chill out.
Listen, I disagree completely. The front office, not good, but
that's kind of more what I'm pointing at.
Yeah. Front office.
So front office and A-Rod. Front office and A-Rod. But what you have to deal with, I'm not saying that like Kenny Clark and God, I'm so mad that y'all got rid of Mike Daniels. He's one of my favorite human beings on the entire earth. But the locker room itself, fine. But anytime you have the top down have those issues, it will sometimes cause problems in games. And I'm curious how this will affect A-Rod. We know what A-Rod can do, but A-Rod being like, "Yo, you want to make me happy? Bring back Randall Cobb." And we're all just sitting here from the outside like, is that really enough? Is that all it took? It's
not. But I think at the end of the day, the way that it's been talked about, even by Aaron Rodgers and even by Goody, it's like, it's Matt's team. Like, you control like that, you go do that, because Aaron Rodgers loves Matt LaFleur. And I think that if anything, that's fine. I think that it's something that speaking of Randall Cobb, like something Randall Cobb said when he came back in his first press conference, like someone asked him basically, like flat out said like, "Hey, like the GM only brought you back, not because like you're an amazing player, but brought you back because of Aaron Rodgers." And I was like, "Oh, that's a little bit of like a punch." And Cobb literally said, he's like, "I don't care like how many snaps I play. I don't care how many catches. Like, I don't care about the Pro Bowl. I don't care." He's like, "Super Bowl. That's it." Like that, that's all they're there for. And I think that if you're a veteran on this team and this is Aaron Rodgers' last season, you view this as like the last dance. It's not just the last dance for Rodgers. Like there's so many veterans going like, this might be the best shot I have in my career ever, or for a very long time to win a ring. And it's kind of the same with the rookies, that they're like, if we have this one window of this 1 year in which we're going all in, this is my best shot. So I think actually the locker room and culture itself is going to be really competitive and really good, because it's kind of that understanding. Like it's, with Drew Brees or something like that, you're like, yeah, okay, like this is our last year. Like, let's go and win it for Drew, like that kind of stuff. Right. I think that it's kind of that same mentality of like, everyone wants to win a Super Bowl. Right. But you don't know until after most of the years of like, oh, that was that guy's last season because he's going to get cut, or like, oh, he's going to get, released, or he's going to retire, or what have you. I think that this is a very clear statement. And again, maybe something happens which the relationship gets repaired. There's talks about it. I don't really care about that at the moment. But I think that like right now there is this narrative and sense of urgency of, oh crap, we got one season. Let's try to win a ring, and that's it.
Yeah, that's great. I think, and obviously I'm coming from an outsider's perspective. Sure. It's we've seen, unless there are teams where the coach has complete control, even from the front office standpoint, front offices can interfere. And if a front office is in your best player's head, that's got to be a little bit worrisome. It is to me anyway. And that doesn't mean that he can't perform, but I think that even Green Bay fans will be like, yeah, there's definitely a problem going on right now between there's an issue. So, and how does that end up affecting Rodgers? Because Rodgers has always been temperamental. Let's just call him temperamental.
He's very zen nowadays. You've seen the lettuce. He's very zen.
Yeah. I saw all of his golfing trips and everything. And that's fine. It's great. I'm happy for him. But will these type, because these things have affected other players before.
Sure.
So I'm curious to see how it plays out. How much does it have of an impact on a week one game? Probably not. We're more talking long-term type issues. Because I'll be honest, when I think of like the threats, let's talk about the offensive side of Green Bay. I really don't think about Randall Cobb at all. I see him as like y'all's wide receiver number 5.
Okay.
Not trying to be disrespectful to him, but truly I fear Scantling, Adams, Lazard more. Like Lazard's Barty type is something. I wanted him in New Orleans. So, while it's good that you got your friend back or whatever, what do you realistically see Cobb getting? Maybe 10, 15 snaps a game? Or do you think he's going to start? I mean, because I would not start him.
I think he starts until Amari Rodgers goes in the slot. I think that's gonna. I think that real quick, just to bounce back off a point that you said. In talking about locker room, like that when Aaron Rodgers just was like, here's the whole story, right? Like at his press conference, he talked a lot about locker room guys. Like maybe they're not going to be the most productive on the field, but like they're going to be really good for the locker room. And I feel like that's what Randall Cobb is. Like I think he can still perform, but I think like he's a locker room guy. He knows Amari Rodgers really well. His dad was his coach, like a whole 9 yards. So I think like
which is why I think that he won't really play them, because I think to me that's a better player than Amari Rodgers. And the Saints have those type of guys like in Craig Robertson, where he was the starting linebacker at one point, but he's basically just a special teams captain for the past 2 years. It's great to have those guys, but we're kind of getting on rabbit trails of what we should, determine the Green Bay Packers starting roster. But like, if I'm coming from an outside perspective, though, which I am, I don't fear Randall Cobb, but I do worry about a young Amari killing me in the middle of the field.
Sure. So. Yeah. I honestly don't know how much in a week one matchup, I think you're going to see more Randall Cobb. I think it's just because that relationship that he has with Rodgers and like, like that history that he has with him, and just like he can improvise. Like, Amari doesn't. Like, he's a rookie, and that's not on Amari Rodgers. Like, that's just a rookie. And when asked about Amari Rodgers, he said that he's like, he plays like he's a rookie, and that's it. And he's had some botched like returns and had some stuff. And he's also, when I was at camp, like he made some amazing like diving catch every single day I was at camp. So the talent is there. I think he's just going to be, I don't know. I think maybe he's just going to get mixed in at first, and it's going to be Cobb getting the majority of the snaps. But I mean, we have no idea like what it's going to look like until like week one. But I could see Cobb starting out, and then slowly throughout the season, Rodgers like starting to get more looks.
So let's jump into y'all's offense and defense. I mean, we talked a little bit through the webcam about offensive line. That's an inside joke for all y'all flaming me in the comment section right now. But I personally am not. So our front seven is we're kind of in a weird position from y'all. It's like, while we have Marcus Williams and Marshall Lattimore, so we're very comfortable in that, the number 2 corner is in question. So that's not an issue for y'all. Y'all's corners are all set. You know what you got. But the Saints front seven has actually come out as really scary good. Now, you've got Cameron Jordan, which is the one that everybody knows, but Marcus Davenport is healthy, really looking good. I know him. They just brought in, Peyton Turner, but they've got Carl Granderson, who's been another young pass rusher. Like, I really hate to see Trey Hendrickson just getting absolutely abused in Cincinnati right now and all these highlight clips. But there's a very good system between Ryan Nielsen and Hodges on the defensive side of the ball. And I'd argue that the Saints coaching staff, everybody thinks Peyton, but the Saints coaching staff is one of the best in the league, and they consistently produce new players. So the front seven is very strong for New Orleans. And without Bakhtiari, I know you're confident in Jenkins, but as any pro O-line evaluator tell you, it is much different to slide outside and be as effective at left tackle as it is to be, say, an inside player.
I mean, he's played it though. Like that.
He has.
Yeah. Like that's the only thing last season, like when Bakhtiari was out and like the whole nines, like he's played literally on every single spot there. Like Ellen Jenkins is going to get God money. Like when he eventually gets extended.
Yeah. The versatility is amazing because he played over 1,000 snaps for y'all last year.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I wouldn't rank him as a top 5 left tackle. He's a very good player.
Sure. But
the issue that you're going into is the Saints are one of the best teams in the league at running stunts up front to force confusion, to force change. And I'm really interested to see how he matches up versus the outside attack, because the Saints have also added a new layer to that attack this year, because you've got an emerging player, Zach Bond, who we basically redshirted last year. But Zach Bond, coming out of college, was a pass rushing outside linebacker, essentially. He was a 2-point stance defensive end guy who could get 10 sacks in college, but we brought him in like, yo, we're going to change you to a full-on linebacker. But then after we finish that, we're going to unleash you as a pass rusher as well. So you got DeMario Davis, who's already an elite inside pass rusher at linebacker. You got Zach Bond, who's extremely good. And then you've got Pete Warner and Quan Alexander. Quan Alexander, also good at that position. Pete Warner just being kind of like a solid rookie. We'll see how many snaps he gets. But from a pass rush perspective, this team is loaded, except in the middle, because David Onyemata is going to miss games.
Sure.
But from the outside perspective, and running twist, and they also picked up Tano Passignon from Kansas City, who fits the same profile of Marcus Davenport and Turner. So they're building something very specific. And it's not that I'm trying to – it's a weird way to put this. Like, I'm not trying to trash Jenkins and say that he's bad. He's just not David Bakhtiari.
No,
and so that's the only thing. Like, I think you get a slight potential advantage for New Orleans there is, even though you have a good player, we're also just talking about one position. I think if we talk about the other side of the line and the interior, like Cameron Jordan on the opposite side that you got to worry about. It's just the fact that the Saints are not a team that has got like that one stud that you got to worry about shutting down. The Saints are a very scheme oriented team, which is why Trey Hendrickson, who has like 14-inch arms, had 13 sacks. I mean, that's what you got to worry about. Do I think Jenkins is good? Yes. Would I still be very worried about your offensive line play? Yes.
I think the left tackle, like I said, I'm not as concerned. I think is he David Bakhtiari? No. But I will say, because he's sliding over, it does leave other positions a bit concerned. And I will be very honest, center is a big concern for me right now, because while Josh Myers has made like some good plays, don't get me wrong, like he's a rookie. He doesn't have that cadence with Rodgers yet. He has made some mistakes. There was a big one on the Jordan Love interception that he threw in preseason. Like, Myers got underneath him and tripped Jordan Love, like, and him going back. And these are things that you learn from, and he's a rookie. I'm not expecting him to go out and be an all-pro right away. But like, until that rapport and relationship is developed, it's a concern. And I think going into week 1, looking at the offensive line, there's probably going to be some growing pains. And you do mention the pass rush of the Saints. That's a concern. And then you fast forward 2 weeks and it's the 49ers. The week after, it's the Steelers, and then the Bears are week 6. So, this is an offensive line that's going to have to mature really, really quick and gel together really, really quick, or it could be a problem. And week 1, it could give Aaron Rodgers some issues.
Sorry, just typing on my very loud mechanical keyboard. It's
enhance.
Enhance. I think the only advantage you have there, if you are a Packers fan listening, is David Onyemata's out. David Onyemata is probably, when he returns, if he continues on the growth path he's had, is going to be a top 10, maybe top 5 3 technique in the NFL this year. And he's been on that continual growth pattern. So it's not like he's coming out of nowhere. I mean, if you've watched the Saints for the past couple of years, you've seen him on that ascension arc. But he's out. He's suspended because he likes things. So we won't get him for a while. There are still some threats to the interior. And for me, the Jenkins thing at left tackle is, yes, I do think that they can attack him directly, but more so it just weakens the group as a whole.
Sure.
And, if Bakhtiari was there, and it's so crazy to talk about this, but I'm a trenches guy. Like, that's where I've trained. That's where I've studied. If Bakhtiari is there, I literally give the Packers like a 2-score advantage. I'm being honest. I think it's much closer without Bakhtiari. And as not disrespect Aaron Rodgers or Alexander, I think there's a star-studded team on both sides here. But if the Saints are going to win this game, it's obviously coming down to affecting Aaron Rodgers. And I think that they have a much easier task in week 1 because Bakhtiari is not going to be there.
Yeah. I think it's valid. I think it's definitely valid. Yeah. I think it's going to be a closer game than maybe some Packers think, like Packers fans think, because they look at a Jameis Winston and they're like, haha, famous Jameis, right? Is just going to, throw 30 turnovers. But I think, as we've talked about throughout this show, kind of just the the hope for Saints fans is it's not the same old. We'll see, like, with that combination of Sean Payton, that combination of not just like, I'm just gonna throw it up there and hope someone's over there. That there's
Exactly.
gonna be some improvement.
Green Bay remembers the Rams, right? Y'all know the Rams.
Oh yeah.
Well, Sean McVay. If Sean McVay can take a Jared Goff and literally say every play do this, and they can make it to the Super Bowl, what can a Sean Payton do with the guy he doesn't have to say every play do this?
Yeah.
So like if we can trust coaches to elevate players, like I don't think Aaron Rodgers is a player that needs to be elevated, but he can still be put into a system that's better for him. And I think LaFleur has given him that.
Yep, exactly.
Peyton can elevate quarterbacks. He elevated Breeze, and that's not disrespect to Breeze. Breeze maybe had a Hall of Fame track if he would have kept playing, who knows? But he definitely had a Hall of Fame track with Sean Payton.
Yeah.
Sean Payton is Kerry Collins. It's a freaking Pro Bowler under Sean Payton. Kerry Collins, the dude had like a 1-to-1 touchdown interception his entire career, and then Sean Payton comes around and is like, hey, let's not do that anymore.
Stop that.
Yeah, stop that. So you have to trust in what you have. Like if the Saints weren't the Saints and like you didn't have a Sean Payton, and let's just say that Jeff Fisher came back in the NFL and you gave him Jameis Winston, sure, cool, famous Jameis, more 30s, here we come.
Yeah.
But you have to look at the Saints and trust in the fact that they've now given Teddy Bridgewater 2 starting years on 2 different teams.
Mm-hmm.
Teddy probably never starts another game in his career if it's not for Sean Payton putting him in his system, giving him wins when Drew goes down, and then he becomes a starter in Carolina. Then Brady, not the player, the coach who's coming out of college, apparently decides we don't need 2-minute drills and stuff. Who needs red zones? And that's just young coordinator problems. And now he goes and wins the job in Denver from a guy who should have won it, the draft pick and all that.
Sure.
So, but does Teddy ever have that chance without? I mean, and you just lost, or Tamus, that's what we called him. Taysom Hill just lost the starting quarterback job. But even though he started 4 games last year, or 4 games, and yet the Saints won with him. So if Peyton can do that with these type of guys consistently, you have to trust that he can elevate a Winston. So if you come in thinking, oh, Winston's going to throw 30 interceptions, then you're just being disingenuous. Like you're just purposely trying to be, those guys suck. You're not trying to be analytical or use a logical thought process. And that's fine. If you want to be a fan and just throw cheese curds at us, cool. Do whatever you do in Green Bay. But realistically, you can't expect Jameis to be a 30 interception guy under Sean Payton. Can he be Aaron Rodgers? God, I hope so. But very unlikely. Very unlikely. I guess, once again, referring to our first episode, depends on which A-Rod. Temperamental A-Rod who decides to play some games, cool.
Looked good last year.
Yeah. A-Rod who decides that, you know what? I want to be elite. It's a scary dude. It's a scary dude.
I think we're going to see a lot of that this year because it's the last chance, maybe.
I think he's got a fire this year. And I think the fire is one thing that I do like about players like A-Rod is when they get the fire, they make it very personal. I think he just wants to shove a football literally down your GM's throat, but he wants that football to be silver, and he wants it to have a long spike at the end of it.
Because it could go down deeper. Yeah,
exactly.
He's get a handle on it. Exactly.
And then he wants that Super Bowl to be known as it's his. He did it, not the GM, not the moves. So that type of fire, I could see him actually having, because we've had this debate. I feel like he's had inconsistency because I don't think he's always had that fire. He's always had the talent, but he hasn't always had that same level of I'm the best. And when Aaron Rodgers is at that level, it's freaking nuts. And I think he could be at that level this year. And that's why, even as a Saints fan, I'd definitely pick Green Bay to win this game. I just think it's closer than some of these like 41-20 predictions I've seen. I don't think it's anything like that.
Yeah, I think we've covered like the gambit. I think we ran through it all. And Deuce,
we've got a great new punter, dude. You don't know about our punter.
So do we? Yeah, we traded for one, so suck it.
Yeah, Blake Gillikin's booting 63 yards with 5-second hang times. You're not ready.
Oh yeah, we had a 70. He hit a 72-yarder last year and a 12-yarder. So where can you see that kind of consistency?
Oh God, what's his coffin corners like?
He had one really good one during the preseason, the last game of the preseason. So they were really nice. So
here's what we're doing, everybody. Here's the side bet. It has nothing to do with the score of the game, with the quarterback play.
Nope.
We're only doing bets on who has the best punting game. So drop your thoughts in the comment section below on either channel, and whoever wins, me and Tom will have a sword battle or something. I don't know.
Yeah, we will. And honestly, I think you guys are going to win it though, because we won't be punting the ball. See it there? See it?
I'm ready.
Listen, I'll go get. I'm literally looking at a sword right now.
We're such nerds.
Yes. Deuce, my friend, thank you for coming on again. Please tell all the peoples where they can find you, everything that you do. Links will be in the description. What do you got?
Well, my name is Rev Deuce Wyndham. You can check me out on Twitter at the same. Just put that little @ symbol there, Rev Deuce Wyndham. If you want to check me out on the good old-fashioned YouTubes, I believe you're familiar with the platform.
Maybe.
You can check out Who Dat Confessional. Now, if you want to come over there, don't just come just listen to my podcast and kind of hear the same thing we just talked about. What I do on there is I do try to focus on things like film studies. So if you actually do want to see some of the concepts New Orleans is using with Jameis Winston that make him look better, we actually break out the all 22. And if you've had trouble finding it this year, well, your boys got you. So come check me out over there on the YouTube channel as well. And yeah, that's it, man.
Deuce, it's been an absolute pleasure. I wish you luck for the season. I hope the Buccaneers don't torment you. And I hope that you kick their ass, not only in the regular season, but also in the postseason. I wish that
until we meet y'all, apparently, right?
Yeah, until then
Yeah,
then it just goes down like
I thought you were just like, you know what, Saints, you win it all. You deserve it. Yes.
No, just give us this one. Just give me just want one more. But Deuce,
you got one literally in your room. It's there.
Yeah, but like it's been a while. Buddy, I appreciate you. Folks, thank you so much for watching. We have fracking football coming this week. Packers football on Sunday. It's going to be fantastic. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack Go.